So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy Ellen. I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. Now, listen, two words you never thought you'd hear together in a sentence, right? Abandoned mansions, right? This video is the 20 most incredible things found in abandoned mansions, right? Never thought I'd hear those two things in the same sentence, but we're here now. So bump it, we're here, right? But for most of us, the reason why we can't fathom that idea or marry that thought is because most of us probably have a vision board in our house somewhere. One of you, your spouse, or you or your significant other or girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Y'all may have a vision board in your house. What's one of the first few things you put on there? Maybe a car, maybe a picture of some money, a mansion, whatever home you eventually want to live in, right? Like we all at some point, maybe not everybody now, but at some point in your life, have envisioned yourself living in one of those mansions, right? So when you see somebody's abandoned one, you're like, you ungrateful little piece. You know what I mean? You have to catch yourself because we strive to be there at some point, right? So we're gonna check this video out. If you're new to the channel, man, hit that subscribe button. What y'all think they're gonna find? Huh? Something of significant value? Because that's what they're looking for in a mansion. Gotta be. So we're gonna check this out. Hit the subscribe button, join the fam. Here we go.
We all wish we lived in a mansion. That's why it's so strange that some people abandon them, but they do. And when those abandoned mansions are investigated, rather interesting things can be found in them. So often, in fact, this is our second video about it. These are the most incredible things.
What's interesting about a snake? Somebody tell me that. What's interesting about a snake? Nothing.
Found in abandoned mansions 2. Number 20. A body in a casket. Possibly the last thing you expect to find underneath an ordinary home is a casket, but it actually happened in San Francisco. Sure, it wasn't a mansion, but it's definitely a spooky story. Construction workers had been working on a San Francisco property in 2016 when they uncovered a coffin in the ground underneath the home. It appeared that it had been left behind when 30,000 bodies were moved to a memorial site in the 1920s. Rather than simply burying her where she was meant to go and moving on with their lives, the community came together to learn more about her. Garden of Innocence, a non-profit organization, spent an entire year finding out who she was and her story. They discovered she was Edith Howard Cook, a 2-year-old who died just 6 weeks from her 3rd birthday from marasmus, a name given to severe undernourishment. It was likely that she had suffered from a disease that her immune system couldn't fight. DNA helped the organization find living relatives, including her grandnephew. It was discovered that her father was a businessman and her grandfather was a member of the Society of California Pioneers. Edith's body was perfectly preserved within the coffin, and she was dressed in a white christening gown and ankle boots with small purple flowers woven into her blonde hair. Like this video? Smash the subscribe.
All right, that's how we're gonna start this video off. I wasn't expecting that. It's like they really took us first, like down.
Subscribe button and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Now it's time for the odd topic. Imagine just casually stumbling upon this much money. Well, one group of people didn't.
Your first instinct is gonna be to lay on that and be like, thank you, thank you. Then your mind is gonna really start playing tricks on you at that point, because every known huge like mob boss or cartel member or a Pablo Escobar or somebody's gonna pop into your mind and you're like, oh snap, I got some big time drug money and they gonna come for it and I got it and they gonna wipe out my whole family. Like in the beginning it's gonna be like eureka, then it's gonna turn to paranoia.
Have to imagine. One abandoned mansion had been explored over and over again. It had become somewhere that teenagers and kids would break into and explore. It became a legend. But here's the thing, nobody ever entered the basement because the basement was locked. But a few years later, a professional team were sent to tear down the building. In doing so, they had to tear down the basement door and found this colossal stack of money when they did.
It was stacked 10 high, but when they found it, You know what I'm saying? When they found it was 10 high. Now it's 5 high. Get where I'm going with this? Yeah, some of that money gone.
Lucky devils. As always, comment down below with the hashtag #OddTopic and let us know.
My question is, what do they do with the money? You turn it over to a state or something? Then if nobody claims it, then what? Like, I need to know what happened with that money.
Your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. That said, let's keep things moving. Number 18. Rolls of cash. Many things can cause homes to become abandoned and fall into disrepair. The owners may not have had any family when they died, or they did have a family but didn't keep in contact with them for whatever reason. So when they die and authorities don't step in, that person's home can be left to rot away over decades. An abandoned house photographer known as Dave from Freaktography had heard about an abandoned home filled with antiques in Ontario, Canada. He paid a visit to photograph the antiques, but noticed a yellow bag rolled up behind the mattress of a bed while he was setting up his camera equipment. When he opened it, he found tightly packed rolls of Canadian and American banknotes totaling $6,800 from the 1960s to 19...
Again, I say, it probably started out as like 56,000 and now it's mysteriously only 6,000. You know what I mean? Yeah. He took a cut off the top, a major cut off the top.
70s. Not wanting the cash to end up in the hands of looters and never once thinking of keeping himself, Dave made it his mission to track down the family members of the property owners to hand over the cash. He managed to identify a female relative and called her to explain what happened and tell her about the money. She was nervous on the phone and said she would talk to her husband. Eventually, Dave met with the pair and didn't pry for family history. However, he learned the money most likely came from her grandparents' fruit stand. Number 17. Gold bars in a garden. A couple purchased a property in Rowan in 2002 and 7 years later found 6 gold bars in the garden. In 2013, they discovered 22 more. Both times, they say they found the bars by accident and it...
Y'all remember the movie The Italian Job with Mark Wahlberg? Most Def was in that movie. Every time I see a gold bar, I think about that movie.
Declared them to the mayor's office, police, and the Banque de France. It seems like they did everything right and that the bars were rightfully theirs. However, the couple ended up being involved in a criminal investigation when atypical financial operations were noticed. These came from the couple selling 23 of the 28 ingots and keeping the money. In total, the bars were worth around €800,000. It was during this time that the previous homeowners learned about the bars. They were 8 children and the seller's widow. They sued the couple for damages and compensation, and the courts ruled that the family had provided sufficient proof to claim ownership of the gold. The couple was made to return the ingots they hadn't sold, along with money from the sale of 15. In this case, the latest homeowners probably wished they had never found those gold bars in the first place due to all the stress they caused. Number 16. Pablo Escobar safe. Many people who purchase
Pablo gotta be nervous about that because they say still to this day, that's how much money he had. Some of his money's still out there.
Old mansions probably hope to find some treasure hidden from decades before. That's pretty much what Chicken Kitchen founder Christian de Boudoir got when he started tearing down a Miami Beach mansion previously owned by Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar. They had been filming the property's demolition for a documentary when they discovered a safe after knocking down the final walls on the massive 7,336-foot property. A piece of rubble had hit the foundation, which caused the floor to sink, and that's when they saw the large 2-foot by 2-foot safe that weighed up to 700 pounds.
That's when you gotta start looking around at everybody's faces around you, because that's when it get real, bro. When money get involved, you start seeing what people are really about and who they truly are. So you gotta pay attention to everybody around you, because now it's a plot on that money.
According to Christian, the safe was locked, and at that time, the contents were unknown. Even after Google searches, we've been unable to find what was in that safe. When it was uncovered, Christian thought it might be gold or diamonds. That guess wouldn't be surprising, given who owns the home. Pablo Escobar was the former Medellin cartel boss. He had such a tremendous amount of wealth that he started hiding cash in walls and secret compartments in his home. His property was seized by U.S. authorities in 1987, and attorney Roger Schindler purchased it for $915,000 for the government in 1990 before Christian took over ownership in 2014. Number 15. Prohibition-era whiskey. If something good came out of 2020, and we need every little bit of good news we can get, it was that a New York couple found almost 70 bottles of whiskey from the Prohibition era hidden in the floorboards and walls of their home. The property was built in 1950.
Bro, as long as that sat, you know that was potent, bro. That'll knock your wig off, bro. You drink that if you want to.
15, and the couple, Nick Drummond and Patrick Backer, had been told that it was owned by a bootlegger. They had just thought it was a small-town legend, but that turned out to be pretty accurate. They had been living in the home for about a year before they decided to undertake major renovations. Nick started pulling off skirting along the bottom of the mudroom when a package fell out. He noticed hay everywhere, paper and glass, and then, finally, the package containing the whiskey.
Oh my god.
Unbelievable.
That's amazing.
They're perfectly wrapped.
Nick then realized the rumors were true. When he entered the mudroom, he discovered a hatch inside the floor where they found even more bottles. And that was just the beginning. 7 bundles consisting of 6 bottles of whiskey were in the wall. Then, weeks later, they found more bundles.
I just want to be there, like, when they take the top off one of them just to see how potent it is, bro.
All bottles of the Scottish whiskey called Old Smuggler Gaelic Whiskey were wrapped in tissue paper and straw before being bundled into half-dozen packages. Number 14. Bugatti in the garage.
I woke up in a new Bugatti. Sorry, I had to, you know, at one point in time, that was one of the most sought. When that song dropped, shout out to Ace Hood. When that song dropped, everybody was talking about Bugattis.
Harold Carr was an eccentric man with a love for cars. His family knew he was a little different, but they also thought he was a reclusive genius. In his later years, he became even more of a recluse, only ever letting his nephew inside his home. When Dr. Carr died at age 89 in 2012, he left his suburban lockup to his nephews and nieces, which they thought was just like any other ordinary property. Except it wasn't. The garage contained a wide variety of rare and expensive cars, such as Aston Martins and Jaguars. The most expensive of the lot was a 1937 Bugatti that could sell for over $8.3 million at auction. Dr. Carr paid just $1,238 for it in 1955 after it had been owned by the Le Mans 24-hour race winner Earl Howe and a member of the gentry, Lord Ridley. Dr. Carr's nephew, an engineer from Newcastle, said they were in shock. They knew he had cars, including the Bugatti, but they never knew how much they were worth. He said Dr. Carr was a generous man, but he kept to himself, so not everybody knew that. Number 12. The Thornbury Hoard. People in the UK are always so lucky. Because their country has such a rich history, you could be just going about your business and find something from thousands of years ago just buried in your backyard. In 2004, Ken Allen was digging a pond in his garden in South Gloucestershire, England, when he found a grey ware pot in the ground. It contained 11 silver radiates and 11,449 base silver numi. The find was
Leprechaun coming after y'all. Remember them Leprechaun movies? I want me shilling. That's what I thought as soon as I seen that pot, man. Them old little Leprechaun horror movies.
Labeled as the 3rd largest in Britain. Research states the pot probably came from Caldecott in Monmouthshire, and it took 2 people to lift the bucket containing everything that had been within it, since it weighed about 63 pounds. Do they even lift? After a valuation committee got their hands on the haul, it had an estimated value of about $55,000. Some of the earliest coins in the Thornbury hoard dated back to the reign of Gallienus in 260, while the latest was from from the Constantinian dynasty. If Ken were to get that money, which seems to be what happens in the UK, he'd be able to pay for that new pond and more. Often, the finder of treasure in the UK receives the value of the goods, while the treasure tends to go to museums. Number 11. Treasure from the past. Renovating old homes can be a huge undertaking. There are often so many hidden problems that you didn't expect to find. Sometimes, though, there is also hidden treasure. This can more than make up for all the hard work that goes into a renovation. A YouTuber called Ang Gru was renovating a house dating back around 100 years when they found a 14-karat diamond ring shoved into the crack of a wardrobe floor. They were removing nails to lay carpet when they spotted the ring and decided to lift the flooring to find what other treasures lay underneath.
If you wasn't motivated before, now you are. Definitely tear that whole house apart.
After lifting the beautiful old flooring, they just found old newspapers. But
well, you gotta know, because then what's gonna mess with you is your mind. You be like, man, what if it's something else? That's gonna eat away at you every day. So I don't blame her. I'd have to tear all that up too.
These were quite interesting since they dated back to 1932 and shined a spotlight on what life was like back then. But I can't help but talk about how they pried up the floor with a crowbar. If they took a bit more care with those old valuable floorboards, they may have been able to sell them for more than what any treasure they found would have brought them. Typically, old flooring in good condition is desirable for repairs in other homes.
Really?
Number 10.
Didn't know that. Note to self, duly noted. I didn't know that. Tortoises? What?
Tortoises.
What?
Radiated tortoises are critically endangered tortoises native to southern Madagascar. Their population is decreasing at an alarming rate, which is what makes the find in a home in Toliara, Madagascar even more heartbreaking. Police had received a report of a rancid smell at a two-story home in Toliara, so they turned up to see what it was. Inside, they counted 10,068 radiated tortoises that had been poached and looked to be destined for the Asian market, where their shell and star pattern made them sought after. Every room in the house was crawling with turtles, and the rancid smell was unbearable for police and wildlife officials. Wildlife experts think the tortoises were part of a pet trade, and 3 people were arrested in connection with it. More may have been arrested as the investigation continued. Once the tortoises were removed, they were taken to local rescue centers. However, due to illness, malnutrition, and dehydration,
That's a lot of tortoises. That's a lot.
180 were dead at the scene, and over 300 died upon being rescued. They would be kept in captivity until healthy enough for release. Even more frustratingly is
That's foul. That's foul.
that poaching for the black market is anticipated to wipe out at least a third of the world's tortoises and freshwater species within the next 2 decades. Number 9. A classic painting in an apartment. There's nothing more intriguing than being able to explore homes that haven't been touched in decades. It's almost like stepping back in time, but with a lot more dust. An apartment in Paris was left untouched for over 7 decades until it was finally discovered. The owner, Mrs. de Florian, chose to leave Paris just before World War II broke out in Europe. Instead of packing up, selling her home, and leaving, she simply closed up the home and set off for the south of France. She never went back. 70 years later, Mrs. de Florian died at age 91, and her heirs enlisted the help of experts to make an inventory of her assets. This is when the Parisian apartment was finally discovered and explored, and what was inside was simply incredible. It was full of gorgeous furniture, piles of love letters, and a stunning piece of artwork hanging on a wall. It was by Giovanni Boldini, an important Paris painter, and the person in the artwork was Mrs. de Florian's grandmother. The painting ended up selling for $3 million, and the incredible family
Oh, man, where's my luck for something like that?
story may have driven up the
3 M's? 3 M's, bro?
price. Number 8. World War II era mortar.
Like, I'd have been happy if it would have been worth enough for a free lifetime of gas. You know what I mean? Like, 3 M's though? That's crazy. crazy.
In 2010, the DeForests were excited to be moving into their new home at 1922 Beckner Street in Goshen, Indiana. But when they were putting away their possessions, they found something tucked away in a cubby space in the basement. A live mortar round. Linda DeForest discovered the foot-long ammunition and asked for confirmation of what it was from their family friend and honorary son, Joshua Blankenship.
She sees this Japanese lettering on it.
Joshua had just returned home from Iraq with the U.S. Army, so he knew exactly what he was looking at. Joshua told them not to shake or move it, as he believed it was around for a recoilless rifle or a lightweight anti-tank weapon. It was old, and no drill holes in it meant it was likely active. Police arrived with the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit, and they were able to successfully remove the mortar without any problems. After the police left, the DeForests checked the rest of the house to make sure no other dubious items that threatened to blow up their home were hiding anywhere.
I'm not even checking it. I'm hired. No, somebody need to come over and do that. No, we out of here, bro. Ain't no way. No, live? Nah, that thing was live.
Joshua said he knew that people like to collect disarmed grenades and expended munitions, but he doesn't like that kind of stuff as souvenirs. Number 7. A surgery room. It probably doesn't get much creepier than an old surgery room, almost like a time capsule, sitting abandoned with everything still inside. Dr. Anna's house, which no one knows how it gets its name since no one called Anna seemed to have lived there, was a medical surgery room and home to a doctor and his wife. Dr. K owned the property with his wife, and Dr. C also worked within the surgery room. It was abandoned for 15 years, but still contained all their medical items and belongings. The lower 2 floors of the home had an operating room, examination rooms, storerooms, a library, and waiting areas. Many of these rooms were prepped and ready for patients, with vials and syringes prepared for use. The upper 3 floors were the living area and the
Why that background music sound like the ending of Saw or something like that? Anybody else felt like that? Listening to that music and watching this video and seeing these surgery tables and different things, I just got a whole Saw chill run down my body.
type of furniture and home style suggests Dr. K and his wife were quite wealthy. One room even featured a beautiful Steinway grand piano. But it's the medical areas that'll really creep you out and amaze you at the same time. Everything is still set up as if it were a surgery room in a horror movie. There are even jars of human kidneys on display.
Yep, it officially went there. They took it there. That's what I was saying. It had to go left some kind of way. They was gonna take us there. Jeez.
Preserved in formaldehyde, along with a massive library of books on urology. Number 6. Snake House. If you have ophidiophobia, the extreme fear of snakes, now's the time to go do something else. This story is truly horrifying. The Sessions family of Ben and Amber had been looking to purchase a larger home for their growing family in Idaho when they managed to find a 5-bedroom rural home for a little over $100,000 that seemed perfect. It was also a bargain. Locals in Rexburg called it the Snake House because apparently it sat on a nest of garter snakes.
There are snakes everywhere, all along the foundation, in the basement.
It also has a history of homeowners leaving quickly. When they spoke to their real estate agent, she claimed the story about snakes was made up by the previous owners, so they didn't have to.
She better run. That real estate agent, she better run. Bro, she better run. You know good and well she knew this place was flooded with snakes, bro. She knew that. That's foul.
To pay their mortgage. So they signed for the house and acknowledged the stories about the snakes within it. But they weren't just stories, they were reality. The day they moved in, they saw 8 snakes. They could hear them in the walls with their scales brushing up against drywall, and the water tasted like the odor of the snakes. Amber said it was like living in Satan's lair, and they moved out 3 months after moving in, feeling compelled to.
I'm surprised it took that long. Got me all itching and looking around now and worried. 3 months? I'd have been gone in 3 minutes, 3 seconds.
claim bankruptcy to get out of their mortgage. You can actually view video footage on YouTube from the previous owners showing buckets spilling over with snakes in the house. Number 5. Abandoned house in the woods. Keith Dotson from Shadows and Light is a fine art photographer who often explores some pretty cool places. One such cool place was an abandoned house in the woods. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's kind of late to go swimming, but you know your mama, she's one of those No, I'm just kidding. Now, I know what you're thinking. Are you insane? Don't go in there. This is how all horror movies start. But the good news is there's a complete video tour on YouTube of the abandoned farmhouse, so clearly nothing bad happened while Keith was exploring it. It sits in the middle of nowhere in a terrible state, and Keith wasn't able to find any history about the place, including who lived there and who owned it. That's a shame, because it'd be nice to see what it looked like before it fell into such a bad state of disrepair. And that's a bit of an understatement. The property didn't even look safe to enter. It was far from watertight and had fragments of wood everywhere. A lot of the house's cladding was also missing. It looks like a small single-story home from the outside, but it's surprisingly spacious once you're inside. There are even stairs leading up to a second story. The house also contains remnants of old furniture, such as a spring from a mattress and doors lying on the ground. Number 4. Murder Mansion. Often, the abandoned mansions and traditional homes you come across are decades old, dilapidated, and not even worth saving in some cases. But that's not true for all homes. An urban explorer was exploring a wealthy neighborhood, scouting out new abandoned home opportunities when they noticed a mansion with a driveway that hadn't been cleared for the entire season. This is generally one of the many signs that a home is abandoned. The explorer ran up to the house, saw other apparent signs of abandonment, and went inside to take photos. The home was built in the 1960s with dated and original decor in place, a bright and large kitchen, and plenty of tidy rooms that made it look like the house was simply left by its owners for an extended vacation. The explorer didn't go into detail about what he found out about the house to stop other people from going there, but there must have been a reason he's called it Murder Mansion. The home was put up for sale, but it didn't sell, likely because of its history and what happened to the wealthy family who lived there. It has been left abandoned since. Number 3. Treasure trove of rare coins. Jeff Beidelman of Rare Collectibles in Richland Township had been called into a home that had been unoccupied for 20 years. The former family members had died, and the children of the last occupants had asked Jeff to visit the house to look for collectibles. So he did just that. Jeff had been upstairs when he found a big pile of coins. He put them into a specific plastic bag to drag downstairs, and it was while he was going downstairs he noticed a hole in the wall. The hole looked strange, so he asked the daughter to see if she knew anything about it. According to the daughter, there were family rumors about coins being dropped down the hole, but no one had confirmed if they were true or not. They were. Jeff tapped the first floor wall below the hole and heard the sounds of coins. When he opened up the wall, it had been so under pressure by the coins that they started rushing out. The cash that had been sorted so far aged from 1826 to 1965, including seated Liberty dimes and large cents. So far, they had a catalog value of $8,500, but some were minted, so some coins with a face value of 1 cent could be worth as much as $20. Number 2. Paintings in a garage.
Listen, don't start tearing y'all house up because y'all seeing some of this, because I know some of y'all thinking like, wonder what's under my floorboard. Don't do it.
Thomas Schultz and Lawrence Joseph purchased a home in 2007 in Bellport, New York that contained tens of thousands of paintings. The artist, Arthur Pinagian, had left instructions for his paintings and journals to be sent to the local landfill when he died, but his family members never did. Instead, Thomas and Lawrence purchased the works from the family for $2,500 and decided to restore and frame them. According to New York art appraiser and historian Peter Hastings Falk, the collection could be be worth as much as $30 million. In fact, some pieces had already sold for $500,000. The rest of the paintings, with new frames, can be viewed at Gallery 125 in Bellport, which is owned by Thomas. Thomas also lives in the cottage with his family. Could you imagine being the family members who sold the art for a measly $2,500? On the one hand, they got $2,500 more than they would have if they had followed Arthur's wishes, but on the other hand, they cheated themselves out of millions of dollars. They aren't likely to forget that loss in a hurry. Number 1.
Just don't tell me. I just don't want to know. that's how I don't want to know.
Abandoned farmhouse treasure. A Tennessee man found a life-changing amount of treasure under the carpet of his grandparents' farmhouse, which had been sitting abandoned for many years. The man's grandparents had to leave the house when his grandfather fell ill with cancer and they needed to be closer to healthcare providers. The farmhouse was in a remote part of Tennessee with fields for miles and miles. His grandfather died and his grandmother never returned to the farmhouse, which sat forgotten about for years. Once both grandparents were gone, the man decided to go to the old house, clean it up, and sell it. It was during this cleanup process that he uncovered what appeared to be a type of time capsule in the floor dating back to the 1930s. It contained books, water-damaged money, silver bars, and coins. He also discovered a box with lots of precious items like coins and jewelry. The family then found a safe built into the coffee table, which contained money, rare notes, and his grandfather's pistol collection. The entire haul was likely worth thousands of dollars, but it's unknown if the family decided to keep or sell what they had found. After seeing just how many goodies are tucked away.
Yo, do you ever think you see that much stuff in an abandoned mansion? I would think like the coins, the money, that type of stuff, old paintings, that's a given. Snakes though, fam? That's what I was getting to. That's what I was alluding to. Snakes? A house of snakes? No. That agent better run. That's all I'm saying. I gotta keep repeating that because you know they knew. But all they worried about is their little commission, getting their commission, and they don't care. That's crazy, man. How would y'all have felt about that? And then would you have stayed there 3 months? Just saying. Listen, man, y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And yeah, stick around and stay tuned. Till the next one, I'm gone. Peace.